And we are live. So welcome to the Mueller Report. I'm Sarah Lawrence, and my co-host is Katrina Houston, and we have a special guest today. So we will plan on doing a really cool interview with Andrew Johnston, and I'm going to hand it over to Katrina for her to introduce our awesome guest today.
All right, so we're really excited and honored to have the Andrew Johnston from the #1 dental podcast, A Tale of Two Hygienists. So thanks for being with us, Andrew. Andrew is in all sorts of fun things, restorative dentistry, and he's got an awesome job. He works his tail off. I think you probably work like 100 hours a week with all of your things that you're into. And thanks for being here with us today, Andrew. Can't wait to learn all about you.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I'm grateful you guys asked me to be here. This is a lot different than kind of our format. Like I mentioned before, you guys are so professional and like awesome. And then Michelle and I on our podcast are like just like winging it every single time. Like you guys sent questions to me ahead of time. And I don't even know what to do with this right now. So hopefully we'll make this something people want to watch. So
funny. All right. So we have a viewer. So whoever's watching us, thank you.
And I just wanted to echo Katrina and just say thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule, because we know, like we're going to learn about, you are a very busy guy and you have a lot of commitments. And so this is a weekend. So we appreciate you taking the time out of your day to meet up with us.
Yes, because you even work on the weekends, don't you?
On occasion, yeah. The way our company is kind of structured, we do kind of a revolving every 4 weeks. We'll do a Saturday shift. And then because I like to work lots of overtime, then I'll pick up another shift on a Saturday somewhere else. And so there'll be some times where I work 2 or 3 weekends in a month. And then sometimes I'll just do the one, or sometimes I will take that one Saturday off and vacation or something.
Yeah.
Well, that last part's not true. I don't do that part, but
you don't vacation?
Not as much as I want to.
You live in one of the most beautiful areas of the country, so that's probably a vacation all the time.
I mean, it's so nice up here in the Pacific Northwest. I mean, yes, we get the, bad rap for it being rainy. I am just like 15 minutes from Portland, and anything you want to do, if you want to go skiing, if you want to go boating, if you want to go to the beach, if you want to go to the mountains, everything's right here. The only thing, I guess, the only knock in this area would be, it is kind of colder at the beach. It's not in the Caribbean by any stretch of the imagination. So I think that's the only kind of downside. But I mean, if you get used to that, then it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I want to go to the Pacific Northwest super bad. It's on my bucket list.
Well, if you guys ever come this way, let us know. We'll go out and do something.
All right. So let's learn about Andrew. All right. You ready?
Yeah, let's do this.
Right. So why don't you tell us how you got into dentistry and why?
I was thinking about this one. I've told this story a few times, and as you're telling stories, you kind of forget what the truth is sometimes. So I'm trying to remember exactly why I got into dentistry. I don't have that, my hygienist when I was 9 years old was so awesome and really preached great things to me and changed my life forever. I don't have that moment. I think starting off, my dad was always kind of getting on my brother and I about being healthcare. It's a very stable job. There'll always be sick people, he said. And so like, okay, that's pretty smart. He comes from like a retail and like aerospace background. And so he's seen a couple of different professions and he knows kind of what's out there. And he's like, that's going to be something stable for you guys. And that's what I want for you guys. And so my brother's also a hygienist and his name's Mike. So we're kind of on that path, and Mike had the idea that, hey, why don't I be a periodontist and you be an oral surgeon? We'll get a little building together. We'll share it. It'll be awesome. We're gonna have a lot of fun. We'll share the front office because Mike and I both come from retail background as well. We're gonna share all your overhead expenses. That way it won't be so bad for either one of us. And like we had this whole game plan going. And we got some advice from a dentist that said, hey, go be hygienist first, because then you can work on the weekends while you're going through school. And all the hygienists in these classes that I took were like by far the best students. They know so much. Yeah, you guys should go ahead and do that. So Mike and I are like, okay, well, that sounds pretty okay. And boom, we went to hygiene school. We had a couple of kids. As we were kind of either before or during school, I'd gotten married and started my family. And then once you're a hygienist and you realize like, hey, I can make a great living, support my family and do all this, I don't really want to be in dental school for another, well, at that time I had to take a lot of prereqs over. So I would have had to take probably another 8 years of school and not see my wife and kids, who I actually started liking a lot at the time. And I don't know. So here's the thing. I don't want to be that person, but like Allison, that's my wife. Like I've actually fallen more in love with her as like our time goes on. And we don't need to get into like the whole sappy blah, blah, blah part of it, but let me tell you why though, real quick. So we got married young. We were, I met her in January. We got married in August. And then I started school in September, prereqs, right? So you guys remember prereqs, like you were super serious and like focused, whatever. Because getting into hygiene school is freaking tough. And so then you go to hygiene school, and that is a freaking nightmare also, as you remember. And you're like just trying to keep your wits about you. Plus I was working some night shifts and stuff like that at one of the local hotels while I was in school. And I never really saw, like, I came home, I put Zachy in the bath and I put him to bed, and then I went and worked. Like, it was really, really terrible. And so I didn't really get to connect with Allison as much as I wanted to kind of early on. And then like now I find out like she's freaking awesome. So anyways, that's a whole another story or whatever. But awesome. Yeah. So
when we first spoke, you just went on and on about how smoking hot your wife is and how lucky you are.
Yeah,
that's so
I am very lucky. She is smoking hot.
Well, I'm glad you went into the family part of it, because that was a question that I know we didn't give you in advance, but I wanted to hear a little bit more about your family life. So,
yeah, I mean, I could brag about my family all day. I was telling Katrina this, I think on our very first like phone call ever, Katrina, I'm really sorry, but like, I was just bragging about how great my life is. And I know that's not what people want to hear about, but like my job is very fulfilling and very awesome. Like the way we practice dentistry, and I can't really get into it too much. But like, it's the right way. It's treating the disease and helping to actually prevent the problems that people are, and giving them the tools and the resources, and giving the hygienists and the staff enough time to talk to the patients and do like tobacco cessation. Like that's a thing in our like daily work. Like we're allowed to do that. And I know when I was working in private practice, that wasn't a thing. And the podcast thing is really awesome. My family though is just, I have a brainiac for like one of my oldest kids. Like he's testing the top 1% of the nation for his scholastic stuff. So he goes to like a special program and stuff. Like he's really, really smart. And then my middle child, like you're not going to find a more loving human being than Hiram. I mean, he is just so, his heart is just awesome. And I think he gets that from his mother, probably. I don't know. And then my daughter, like she is just the sassiest little girl that I love so much. She has her own unique personality. She has a lot of medical problems, but she like, okay, so she has a walker and stuff. Let's say she goes to like kindergarten, and like she just does not care about what any of the other kids think about her. She's like, I'm freaking awesome, and tough luck if you don't like me. Like she is awesome. So and then, Allison's really supportive of all those little ventures that I do. I do work a lot. I do try and make enough money that we can, pay our bills and do all that kind of stuff. But also part of working so many hours is so that I can go traveling around with the podcast. And we'll go to, 5 to probably 10 conferences a year just for the podcast. So, someone's got to pay for that. And it's not a sponsor so far. Hint, hint, anyone listening that wants to sponsor us.
I think that's a good intro to tell us a little bit more about your podcast and how that got started and what made you want to do that.
Oh my goodness. Oh, it's again, like, what's the truth? Like I have my truth and Michelle has her truth. And I think my truth is truthier, more true, whatever the word is. Okay. So A Tale of Two Hygienists is the name of the podcast. And we've been going on, we just had our 101st episode came out. We do it weekly. So it's been a little over 2 years that we've been doing this. And the idea was in the very beginning, I was doing some things. I don't know if you guys know who Mark Frias is, but he is a hygienist and he puts out like amazing stuff. Excuse me.
Is he the one that invented that kind of like that product?
The Kona adapter.
Okay,
is
yeah.
What he invented. Yeah. He's a great hygienist, and so he started doing some of these type of things, these like kind of webisodes or whatever you want to call them, and he invited myself and Daniel Lopez and a few other people kind of sporadically. And I'm like, that's kind of cool. And then I also had Howard Ferran invited me to be on his podcast way back when he first started. I think I was like number 16 or something like that. And I think he has more than 800 now. He's crazy. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. And so I'm like, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And then there was the Dental Hacks podcast. And that really was, Alan Mead is one of the co-hosts for the Dental Hacks podcast. And he started a Facebook group called Dental Podcasting Incubator or something like that. And so I joined that because I was thinking about doing my own podcast, but I wasn't really sure if I had enough follow through and drive to do it by myself. And in there was only one other hygienist, and it was Michelle. And at the time I was doing some lectures on charitable dentistry, and I had clicked on her profile and it had her working at like what looked like a mission trip outside. I think it was in Nicaragua at the time. And so I Facebook messaged her and I said, hey, I speak on charitable dentistry. Like, what group do you go with? I want to share the information if that's okay with you, blah, 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 blah. And I don't remember the months or how much time had passed, but Michelle never checks her spam folder. And that's kind of where I was the spam.
Junk folder.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, so I guess that's kind of like, that was our first like reach out. So finally she saw it. She's like, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. Let's talk about it. And we started talking on the phone. And it was one of those things, and it was like you and I, Katrina, and maybe it's because I talk so much. Maybe it's my fault. I've always blamed everyone else, but like every time I'm on the phone with somebody that I really connect with, like we talk for a long time. And so Michelle and I started having these really long conversations. You know, do you want to do this podcast together? You know, what is it going to look like? What is your motivation for doing it? And our motivation really was just to get the information out there. It was never going to be like, hey, let's get paid to do this or anything like that. As it has evolved now, it's pretty interesting. You know, we're the #1 dental hygiene podcast. I think by downloads, we're not the #1 podcast, but we were voted the #1 podcast by the audience, which was pretty awesome. I mean, we freaking throttled the dentists, and it was great. Thank you. But what that tells us, though, is hygienists are engaged, hygienists support each other, and hygienists really want everyone else to be successful. Even if it's a dentist, even if it's a hygienist, doesn't really matter. And so it kind of feeds the fire that Michelle and I have of, okay, now the next step is let's see how we can perpetuate that. How can we get people on mission trips, for example? That's one of our big passions is this year with some of the sponsorship money that's going to be coming in, we're going to send people on mission trips. And that, because it's an expense, right? Like, you know, if you only have 2 weeks of vacation a year, and that's generous in a lot of offices, right? You're going to have to spend one of them on a mission trip. And on top of that, you're going to have to pay $2,000 to $3,000 to go. Like, that's not, I don't know. I like mission trips. I hate that that's always the obstacle is the money thing. So, you know, if we can help, you know, do scholarships and stuff like that for people to go on mission trips, that's going to be something that we're going to be really fired up to work towards.
It's fantastic. Is there a certain organization you guys work with?
Michelle works with I'm going to butcher it. I think it's One World Health. I work with a couple ones. So the ones that I really like is Somos Amigos, and that's somosamigos.org. The reason why I like it is because there's a couple different types of mission trips, right? So there's like your pure humanitarian aid. Like, I'm just doing this from, you know, the bottom of my heart. I just love everyone. There's also like the CE trips where the doctors will go learn how to place implants in the Dominican Republic and whatever. So it is a service, but it's not really because you're learning. I know that there is another implant pathway, I think is what it's called. I might be wrong on that one, But Dr. Justin Moody does these ones where he helps veterans down in like Arizona and other pockets of the country. But he does a CE course with the dentist. So there's like those types of trips. Somos Amigos is like humanitarian, non-government, non-church affiliated. Like, let's just go out and help these people. And Frank is the guy that started them about 20 years ago. He's been doing it, and it's the same location. And so you have like the continuity of care. People can get their recalls and things like that, which I think is really important. I don't like the one and done missions. I'm not a big fan of that. You go in and you get people somewhat stabilized for a little bit, but there's no follow-up. Like, that's not, I mean, you help some people, but probably not as many as, could have been helped. And I know One World Health is the one that Michelle goes on, and they do the same thing where we're going to start a clinic in this one location, and we're going to get the locals eventually running this clinic. And, we're still going to have some volunteers and things like that, but we're going to help the people help themselves. Those are the types of mission trips I really, really like. I also go to one in Guatemala on occasion that is more of a CE trip where I teach the local anesthesia course. And that's, I think it's weteachextractions.com is the website for that one. And basically what I do is I just give the quick didactic, few hours there. And then we do 4 days in clinic of doing injections while all the doctors do extractions. And there's like 30 doctors that go. So there's a lot of injections to be given. So, if you're feeling rusty on that, then that's, like I said, it's kind of like a mixed bag though. You get a little bit of injections and you get a little bit of helping people. It's pretty cool. I like it a lot, but I know it's not everyone's kind of game. So
was that kind of the reason you decided to go into restorative, or was that kind of to follow back on how you and your brother wanted to be dentists?
Yeah, so that's an interesting thing. So one of the really cool things that I've learned in the last couple of years that kind of blew my mind was the differences in hygienists across the nation. Like, like, you talk to your local friends about what is your scope of practice, what you want to do, and then you hear come on the national scale. It's like, okay, we're going to go from here, and then we're going to be therapists. And then there's a lot of pockets throughout the country that don't have anywhere in between there either. Washington State's a little bit different, where if you go to school in Washington State and you take your board exams, you are going to take a restorative board exam. In your license, your full license is what it's called, or I'll just call it your license. Every hygienist in the state of Washington can place restorations. It's not unique. It's not, EFTA is one of the terms that people throw out, the expanded functions dental auxiliary. It's not an EFTA. It is just a regular hygienist. And you can come into the state if you haven't taken the educational side of things and get an initial license and still practice, but it's mostly doing the traditional hygiene stuff. So it wasn't really a choice. When I graduated, Mike and I both had a company that was kind of expanding and growing in pediatrics, and they were looking for restorative hygienists. And so they came to the school and they said, hey, send us whoever's staying in this area, and we want to have like a lunch and learn type meeting with them. And so Mike and I went, we did a tour of the facility. It was like state of the art. It was really beautiful. We really liked the opportunity that we're going to be able to do restorative. Mike and I both have kids, and we like kids. And so it was going to be a good opportunity for that too. And so we kind of got pushed into it rather than a choice. And then my next job in private practice, I actually got poached, I guess you'd say. His restorative hygienist, it was a one doctor office, and he had one traditional hygienist and one restorative hygienist. And the restorative hygienist did everything, like the assisting duties plus placing fillings and all of his anesthetic for him. And he really helped me grow into that role as a restorative hygienist, because I would just go from office to office, or I'm sorry, from op to op to op. Maybe sometimes I would put like a little distalizer and doing braces stuff. And then sometimes I would suction while he was doing oral surgery. I mean, I would kind of start to finish, like whatever I had to do. And you see like the big scope of that, because it's all underneath my regular license. I think once we started working with the kids, I realized like the artistic value and kind of the instant gratification that I was getting from placing fillings. So you think about like okay, you have your patient that comes in, right? And they haven't been in 20 years and they have crap all over their teeth. And you just want to get in there and knock it all down. And you feel so good afterwards because you know that those red, bleeding, puffy gums are going to settle back down, right? That's that. Boom. But for me, when I have, they were just in 6 months ago, tight, pink, healthy tissues, no pocketing. They do everything we asked them to do. I mean, they use an electric brush. I mean, they do everything. I'm like, what am I even doing here? Like, this is so like such a letdown. It's not it's not fun. It's not like life changing. And so I think the reason why I continue to look for opportunities to do restorative is because it's instant gratification. There is a giant hole in the tooth and you get to put a filling in there and you get to make it look beautiful. And I know it's only us that like notices the details, but really that does make a difference to me. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm just arrogant, but I'm like, I'm going to do my very best because when my doctor does the recall on that patient and looks at that filling, they're going to be like, oh, did I place that or did someone else place that? Look in the notes. Oh, Andrew did. Oh, that's a really nice one. He's really good at that. Or if you guys saw my patient or whatever, you'd be like, wow, all these other fillings kind of suck, but that one is really good. Like someone like awesome did that. And like, that's what I want. I want people to be like, Andrew, like awesome.
You're going to start putting your initials in the
I should.
Little signature.
I should sometime. That would be fun, actually. Like, I'll make one like weird scratch, like squiggly mark, whatever. That's my signature.
Like a Harry Potter zigzag.
Yeah, exactly.
So now, does the doctor have to prep the tooth?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or
yeah. So I mean, in my first office, kind of the way it would go would be we'd have 3 ops every hour for pediatrics. And again, this is pediatrics, so the preps are a lot smaller, a lot more conservative. We use a lot of like Fuji 2, a lot of composites. And so and with composites, depending on the composite, like the millimeters increments, you're going to bulk fill most of these ones because they're only 1 or 2 millimeters deep. And so you can just do one big blob of stuff and then cure it and call it pretty good. Whereas with adults, your composites are, you can do a layer technique or you can use the bulk fill composites and kind of like fill it way up. But these ones are a lot easier. So I don't want people to like freak out and be like, oh, you guys are doing 3 patients every hour. That's, crappy care or whatever. Like this is like the best care I've ever seen on any patient. So these doctors were awesome. And so we have 3 ops. I would go in and I would anesthetize that first patient and then anesthetize the second patient. And then doctor would go in and prep that first patient. I would anesthetize that third patient and doctor would prep the second and then I'd go fill the first. And we'd kind of be going like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until we were done. And then we'd just do that every hour. So, we would pick, 2 to 6 fillings per kid and get it going. And that's just part of like also like we can't remove tooth structure. That's in our rules and regulations. So we're not allowed to purposefully do that. Sometimes when you're going to be adjusting occlusion and stuff, you might take a little bit of enamel away on accident, but it's not really anything that's serious. I'm not prepping a tooth by any stretch of the imagination. Right.
So you're doing hygiene though, right? Do you just have specific days where you do restorative?
Not so. We have a new things have kind of changed for me in the last year and a half. We have a different doctor now. Before it would be I would have all day doing restorative, and because the doctor at the time had a heavy restorative schedule, she had a huge patient load, and she was very fast. Like she was fantastic, and she was also really good about allowing me to kind of help. I don't want to say manipulate the schedule because that sounds really bad, but you know what I mean? Like move certain pieces wherever you need them to be able to accommodate everybody without feeling rushed and things like that. So I would have all day restorative where, on the schedule would be like 2 columns of restorative and I would just bounce back and forth between them all. If we had someone from the hygiene chair that needed a quick filling, we would just bring them over, do that as well. As it stands right now, if I have like a no-show or, a cancellation or something like that, then I can jump over and do a filling here and there. I still do a lot of anesthetic for my doctor. I don't do as many of the fillings. He does like to do his own fillings for the most part, unless he starts to get a little bit behind, then I'll jump in as well. So if he's doing the exam, then I can jump in and do, a quick DO or whatever. Yeah, usually it's not going to be, I just try and fit it in, I think, now compared to what it was before, where I was doing like all day, every day. Mm-hmm. So, but not to say that I'm unhappy. I don't want people I just told everyone how great restorative is and how much I love doing it. I'm still happy because, you still get the patients that really need your care. And it does kind of keep me, up to date with certain perio. I still feel like, honestly, it's the stupidest thing. Perio is still my weak spot. As a hygienist, that's I don't know. That just boggles my mind that I'm still weak in perio. But
at least you're honest about it.
That's weird. I don't know.
So, hey, Sarah, I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry, I muted myself. No, I was just saying that I think a lot of what you're saying about the perio is probably how many hygienists feel, but they just don't admit it, or they feel like they can't admit that. So
why do you think that is, though? Like, why is that a thing for us? Is it like arrogance? Is it like pride?
Hygienists can be, I love y'all, but sometimes we can be pretty critical of each other's work. So
I think that's what it is. And I think just human nature is you don't want to admit your weaknesses. You don't want somebody to see your vulnerabilities and put yourself out there, and then possibly be criticized for it. So, but as we all know, nobody's perfect and we all have our own weaknesses, but when it's time to admit that, sometimes it can be a little bit hard.
So, can we talk about that for a second? Because I feel like I really want your guys' advice on this, because do you think that people just don't know that they suck at certain things, or do you think that they know and they're hiding it?
No, I think people, I don't know, I've worked with a lot of people that I think they're a lot larger than they really are. Yeah. But I don't know. Yeah. What do you think, Sarah?
Well, I think that I have determined that there are two types of hygienists: people that go to work just to go to work and clock out at 5.
Yeah.
Do the best they can. Then there are other people that are more and I'm not saying one is better than the other, but dental hygiene and dentistry is like my life, and I want to always do the best that I can. There are some days that I wish I could shut it down when I get off work, but I'm always thinking about, my job and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So I think there are some hygienists that are perfectly content with just doing the best they can when they're there, don't really care too much about continuing education and trying to get better. They're just content. And then there's the other, set that is always striving to do better and be better, maybe to a fault sometimes. So
like someone said, we're also hygienists are perfectionists. Yeah, Trudy. So mm-hmm. we definitely are perfectionists, but I think that's a difference, especially if you have one hygienist who likes to just clock in and clock out, working with another hygienist that really does take the full hour, or the time that's allotted to do the best they can with their patient. And it can be frustrating when, there's two different types of hygienists in the same office, because if a patient works with both hygienists, it's cleaned by both hygienists, and they're like, you guys are a lot different. Mm-hmm. That's kind of awkward too. So,
and the nature of our job, like Jasmine says, we're constantly defending ourselves to the dentist, and that's the nature of our job. We're not graded, but we're critiqued multiple times a day by multiple people. The patient, I work in pediatrics, and not only do I have to, I'm judged by the patient, the parents, the dentist will, evaluate my work. It's just, we're constantly being critiqued, as we should be, to a certain extent. But then when, and so that sometimes creates like anxiety. And so whenever we're questioned, whether it was with a bad intention or not, it's like all of a sudden our defenses go out,
Yeah. Well, Jasmine, and maybe you can write this in if you're still watching. I want to talk about the feeling of inferiority. Because that's all, it's very much, I won't say it's a you thing, but it's very much, it's an us thing. It's a personal feeling of not being good enough, not measuring up to X, Y, or Z standards. But a lot of times what I'm finding is when I have dialogue with dentists or other hygienists, they're equally as hard on themselves as they are on us. And so how do we beat, I guess, that feeling of inferiority, even though that we know that we could be better. How do we kind of overcome that and then just do better? What's the answer?
When you figure that out, please come back on the show. Let us know.
But I think
the
first step is having these conversations that we're all afraid to, like I said before, to put ourselves out there and to own up to what we're feeling inside and afraid of being judged. So I think it's great that somebody like you with such a big audience that's well respected is able to have these conversations and let them know that, hey, it's okay. Don't give me that weird look. I see you.
Well respected? Yes. I don't know what that's all about, but okay. So
I think it's important. I mean, you have that medium to be able to have these conversations, which is, you're not going to change the world for everybody, but maybe there's a couple people that will be watching today or listening to your podcast, and it's going to change their life and make them feel like, hey, maybe I shouldn't be so hard on myself, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think, yes, I get the we're inherently perfectionists and stuff like Trudy was saying, but like we, as a group, like we all need to like lighten up a bit. I think that we all need to understand that, hey, we have an education, we're very qualified and capable. And we need to, even if you're faking it so you make it, like be more confident but not arrogant, and like really just trust in yourself and continue education. Like like we have to keep learning so that we keep getting better. Yeah, Trudy, there are no mistakes, just learning experiences. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question, Andrew, without you having fear of getting in trouble. Do you think that it's mainly because we're such a heavily saturated female profession that it might have something to do with I mean, are you as critical about yourself as I know we females are?
I think I'm probably more, not probably more. I think that I'm equally as critical of myself. I was actually just having a conversation the other day to a dental assistant. I'm like, I think so I had a car accident, right? And I changed the way I was doing things because my shoulder and my neck and my right arm were kind of like screwed up a little bit for a while. And so I tried to make it more comfortable for myself. And I realized, maybe I shouldn't admit this. I think I was missing something. I think I was missing this one particular spot in the mouth repeatedly because I had a couple of patients come back. I'm like, oh, where did that come from? And then it was the same spot in multiple areas. I'm like on multiple patients. I'm like, this is dumb. I don't know what happened. But that's the only thing I can like think of that it could be because I went to a different position, like the regular, like, what was it, 9 o'clock position to clean a certain spot. And I'm like, oh, this feels a lot more comfortable all of a sudden. And I don't know. It was just very weird. And then she mentioned, she's like, yeah, you're really hard on yourself. Like you are like, why are you even worrying about it? But I'm like, because it's patient's health. Like you can't ever compromise on someone else's care. Like it's just, you're not allowed to. And so, yes, I think that it could be because, the female thing, but I think it's also just a profession thing. Like we understand the seriousness of our job without hopefully trying to make it too serious. But, especially with all the correlations now with, the oral health and cardiovascular health and things like that, like we need to be truthful to like our profession and be a little bit hard on ourselves. One thing though, I will say about the male female kind of difference, you guys are really mean to each other. And that is one thing that I really wish that would change. It is not, the whole Mean Girls Club thing, like that's a legit thing. I didn't believe it for a long time. Like if you listen to our podcast from like day 1 through 100, you'll hear me change my tune. I'm like, Michelle, you're crazy. Michelle, you're crazy. But I started seeing it. The bigger we got, I noticed like people really, like not necessarily directed at Michelle, but like some circles that we were kind of running in, I would see what they were doing. And I'm like, you guys are dumb. Like, why are you so mean to that person who's an up and comer just because they're new? Like, let that, like, it's embrace them and help them and uplift them. Like, who cares? Like, but part of it's like, turf wars, like they're going to get less money from sponsors if the sponsorship dollars has to go spread them out, whatever. But us guys, like we have, a guy, a Mr. RDH group on Facebook, and we're freaking supportive as crap. Like we love each other. And like, I don't know, I really kind of wish that would change a little bit. I think, I guess I really don't know how to talk about that, but
well, what do you think it is?
I don't know.
Honestly, you're not going to get in trouble here. We won't let you.
No, I wish I knew. I wish I had the answer. I think that there's, I mean, if we really want to get into that part, I think it's a societal thing. I think, you know, kind of growing up, I think that the images of perfection, things that we're teaching our daughters and at such a young age. You know, I caught myself last night even telling my daughter how perfect she was. And I'm like, okay, you gotta stop saying that kind of crap, dude. That is not something that she needs to hear. You can tell her she's beautiful. You can tell her that you love her. But setting up unrealistic expectations and then allowing a culture of kind of negativity and fighting to get you ahead in society and allowing that to continue is not really a great thing. And I think that kind of permeates, I think, not just into our workspace, but I think a lot of workspace. Trudy, men don't take things personally, no drama. Okay, that's true. Okay, you know, I just heard the other day from a patient, I know this is like old, but there's, I'm going to get this totally messed up. Like the men's brain is like a series of boxes and the men can only live in one box at a time. But the woman's brain is like spaghetti noodles and they're all intertwined and all this stuff. And they always have like 1,000 things going on at once. And that's probably why we don't take things personally, is because we can't concentrate on anything else. Like we got one thing. Let's get that calculus. Great. Let's do this thing better. That's great. Let's listen to the doctor. That's great. Done. We're done. I don't know. I honestly don't know, but I do think it's a kind of a societal problem, not just
it is. It is us. Definitely. Because, I mean, yeah, like you said, we learned this at such a young age. And honestly, I think it gets worse the older we get. Because I thought that the drama would go away after high school. Lord have mercy, we just get meaner and meaner.
Yeah. But I think the good
thing, of course.
As we get older, we are more able to choose who our friends are, you know, and who we hang out with. In high school, it's like you are with who you're surrounded with. But we can start to make those choices. And, you know, we're going to make mistakes, but we're going to learn, you know, maybe this isn't the best person for me to be hanging out with. And we can change that. We can change our circumstances. We can change where we go. And we just get smarter with our experiences. But yeah, there's always going to be hurt feelings, you know. You never really outgrow the drama, but you are able to make better choices as you get older.
I think that drama is kind of fun, though, for a lot of people. I think that some of us, probably a lot of us and people watching, probably are not loving drama. Like we don't have time for that crap. But there are certain groups of people that just, they feed on it. They love it. Real Housewives. I mean, that seems to be like a drama-filled. I've actually never watched it. I shouldn't be like slamming them, but like I assume that's what it is. Kardashians. I assume, again, drama. All of these types of shows are drama-filled. Everyone has a problem. Oh my gosh, let's let the music start blaring and getting kind of creepy music during this one spot where we catch the guy doing the bad thing, or you know, like that. I don't know. People just like that kind of stuff, and then they want to find drama to contribute to the group so that they can be included, and now they have a group of friends that are, it's a perpetuating issue. But sorry, we don't really need to get into all that stuff.
Because, you know, we were sitting down trying to watch something to watch on Netflix, and everything was drama. And I was like, can I just watch something peaceful so I can go to bed and just be happy and zen? And no, man, they don't make that stuff. It's all drama. So I had to watch, what's that prison show? Orange is the New Black. I had to watch it.
I'm more of a investigation, discovery, forensic, murder, horror show girl watcher more than the drama.
Yeah, I am comedies, and I mean, it's not like I don't watch TV, but like Alice and I will watch like Top Chef or something like that. Survivor. I love Survivor. I know it's drama filled too, but I love Survivor. Those kind of things. Things are a little bit more lighthearted. That's kind of be where I'm tending to watch. I don't watch a lot of heavy things because I also don't have time to invest in storylines. Just it's hard. So.
Well, when I think about like,
so when you have a bad day at work, you don't go home and like cry into a bottle of wine and eat chocolate?
I don't. Well, maybe. My life is awesome. I don't have a lot of bad days of work. And
Good.
honestly, the way my work is set up, like I'm an employee, my dentists are employees. I don't really have like an owner like watching over every little thing. And so, I don't take work stuff home very often. I don't know. Yeah, my
And
life is awesome.
it sounds like you have more control over your schedule. I feel like a lot of those problems and anxieties come from people that are in an environment where they are do a list of 100 things in 20 minutes, or not really, but you know what I mean? Like the pressures of the time and not being able to have any input on that schedule. I think that is like the, recipe for disaster.
Absolutely. I mean, so to be clear, like I think that we do more paperwork. I think we do. Our company is kind of affiliated with some research projects and stuff with some universities and things like that. So we're really working towards kind of fixing this whole dental disease problem that we have. So because of that, we have to collect a lot of data. And so we're inputting a lot of just different information. Because of that, though, I am allowed to give, 50 minutes for a healthy patient checkup, whatever, annual cleaning or whatever it's got to be. I'm allowed to kind of dictate how that goes. I'm not diagnosing. I'm not treatment planning. I'm not doing any of those things that are like those big scary buzzwords that people are going to, whatever. But if a patient comes in and says, and they have just like perio issues, and I know that I need X number of, minutes to get this done, my doctors are really cool about letting us kind of do what we need to do to get our patient healthy. And again, there's a whole business model behind it that I can't really talk about, but the gist is the healthier our patients are, the more successful we're going to be as a company. And so, it just it's a win-win-win. The company wins, I win as a clinician, the patient wins. Like it's the perfect setup. So, yeah.
I know you can't say much about your company, but are you guys only in Washington or is it national?
It is. There are 3 states we're in. So Oregon, Washington, and Idaho. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, I really don't want to get in trouble and stuff. So I'm just like,
no, I know.
I'm not gonna talk about it. But
so
it's awesome. Like it's the best place to work. There's no equivalent on earth. So sorry, everyone.
Let me ask you, what do you think is the future for our profession?
Oh crap. That's a good question. I guess it's,
We didn't give him that one in advance, did we?
We did.
I was dreading that one. Because here's what it is. Here's the thing. I think it depends on the definition of what our profession is. What constitutes a dental hygienist? And when you look at that, I would hope that our future is getting everyone in the United States on the same page. So that is going to be going back to the educational programs, making sure that everyone's not teaching exactly from the same book and doing those things. They don't have to be identical, but they need to be equivalent. And so what I'm learning and what people are learning in DC or New York or down in California, Texas, we all need to be learning the same things, and our licenses should reflect that. So it's unfortunate that the people in Texas can't give local anesthesia in this day and age. When you think about, and I always mess up the date, but I think it's like 73, 75, somewhere in there, I think is when they started it in our state, in Washington, somewhere way back when. So if you think about that, I mean, that's like 40-something years that we've been doing it in our state, and they can't do it in Texas. And to my knowledge, no one has ever died from a hygienist giving them local anesthetic. So what's the big deal really? And the big deal really is, control over licensures, and the dentists don't want to relinquish control and things like that, and it sucks. But I would hope that the journey that our profession is going to take is getting us all to be equivalent. It's getting us to all be really focused on the hygiene aspect of life, but still being able to do restorative, still being able to do local anesthesia, still being able to do like a comprehensive care. I cannot do extractions. I don't have any. Actually, I do. I don't want to lie. Would love to do extractions. I think I'd be freaking-tastic at it. But I don't think that is a dental hygienist role. A mid-level provider, sure. Even a restorative hygienist is probably not really a hygienist at that point. It's not teaching prevention. It is filling the hole in someone's tooth. That's a reparative, a restorative thing now. And so I would really like to see like maybe our profession draw the line about where we're really going to be, and is mid-level provider going to be a hygienist or not. So once they have that kind of delineated, then I want all those other states that aren't where everyone else is at, I want them all to be kind of where Washington's at right now. Oregon does a lot of great things as well. I think that, you know, they do restorative and things down there, and they have the ability to go out in the community and work on patients. Kyle Isaacs, I think you just had her on the show before. She just published a thing, kind of in a local paper or something, about going and treating, I want to say like 98-year-old vet or something like that at a center that's not even close to a dental office. You know, like that stuff is really cool. Like, why can't we do that kind of stuff? That's what I'd really like to see our profession. Less focusing on extracting teeth, less focusing on all of that. But I'm not saying that I'm very pro mid-level provider, very, very pro. It's just not in our professional scope of practice, I don't think. Makes sense? Maybe,
yeah.
Maybe not.
Do you think we're... Go ahead, Sarah.
No, I was just going to say, like, I feel like I'm passionate about making the public more aware of what our role is, you know? I think that's, I think we don't focus enough on, you know, people will call us dental nurses or, you know, whatever, and they don't know what our role is. And I think that's unfortunate, because once we start to educate the public, they can start to trust us and to understand that we are true health professionals. Like, we aren't just hired off the street, you know. We do have an education, and I think, you know, like for somebody like a profession like nursing, I mean, they have that backing, and they have that, you know, everybody knows what a nurse is, but we don't, you know. A personal story for myself was I didn't go to the dentist a lot when I was younger, and I didn't even know what a dental hygienist was until right before I applied for dental hygiene school. I had no idea. I just looked up the definition. I was like, oh, I think I can do this, or science. I like it. You know, but I didn't even know what a dental hygienist was. I didn't know the differences between a dentist and a dental assistant. And so I think that's unfortunate, because we can't get the, you know, the trust from the general public if they don't know what we're doing, and they don't understand that we are educated.
Sure.
I feel that it needs to start on the medical side, honestly, because they're not being educated on the correlation. Personally, I mean, we're doing what we can right now, but until the doctors, medical doctors, are also educated to see the link, and they're educating their patients on the importance of, you know, having a healthy mouth, because then the rest of their body is completely affected. So I think that merge is happening. It's closer than it's ever been, obviously, and that really excites me. I feel that when we get more doctors on board, the sky's the limit with our profession, because then it's just going to open more and more doors.
And that is already happening, which is fantastic. And I think that that'll also kind of achieve both of your points. It'll achieve, Sarah, what you're talking about is getting the public to understand like who and what we are. It'll give legitimacy to us, because we're now working with medical doctors, not just the dentist. Because for better, for worse, actually just for worse, it's not really for better, but the public has this perception of dentists being, you know, greedy money makers. I mean, and I can go on a whole rant about whenever someone that's a dentist that does something bad, they always say, 38-year-old dentist from, you know, Carolina, whatever, blah, blah. And I'm like, really? Like, why do they have to say dentist? That there's no purpose of saying their profession, because, you know, if they were an acupuncturist, they wouldn't put that in there. So, I mean, that's just bullcrap, like right there. And so, yeah, getting into the medical thing is going to give us a lot of legitimacy in kind of what we do. So,
yeah. So when do you, Sarah, think that we should go? We think we should start doing some Q&A, or you want to wait a few minutes? Because I know we've got a whole list of questions from some viewers that we haven't answered.
Yeah, we can do that. That sounds good.
Sorry, everyone. I talk so much. I'm just like...
Yeah, I love it. You're awesome.
Yeah, let's do Q&A or whatever you guys want to do. It's fine with me.
Okay, so...
All right, so Sarah, I can't see them.
Oh, okay.
Because except for the
I'll
ones
let you guys all know. Like, I probably should have said this at the very beginning for all you people that are listening out there. Like, I am not like the expert in anything. I have an opinion on lots of things, but I want you guys, like, if I feel like I'm qualified to speak on it, then I'll speak on it. But I might have some things I'm like, I'm not the right person to talk to about that. Just FYI.
So I want to ask one question, just because we've talked about, okay, so silver-diamine fluoride, that's kind of the big trendy thing right now. Do you utilize that in your office?
I do.
Since you are working with kids? Okay.
So silver-diamine fluoride is really cool. Like the thing that I really, I guess, I'm hopeful about with the silver-diamine fluoride is the PBS.org thing that came out a couple days ago really explained it well to the public on how it actually works. So that's really cool. But what I'm really hopeful for is less general anesthesia for children. Like I think that's going to be like the big thing. Yes, you can use it on adults. Yes, you can do all these other things too. There's a lot of applications for it. But I'm really looking forward to it creating a better experience for children, so we don't have so many nightmare patients as adults, because it sucks having one of those, oh, they put their knee on my chest or whatever kind of stupid patients. We do utilize it though. Kyle and I have talked about it a little bit, and Kyle, I think, is again probably better representative of like how and when and why and where. But for us, we do incipient decay, and then we'll also do. If doctor's prepping out a tooth, you can also put it kind of like, as we would consider maybe like a liner or something like that. He's prepping out the tooth, taking out the decay, puts a little layer of silver-diamine fluoride on, and then puts on like some Fuji or something like that as a temporary fix, watches it, waits to see if is it going to need endodontic therapy or not, and then we can kind of progress towards either permanent filling or yes, it needs endo. There are a lot of uses for it, and it is what they call it in that PBS thing, the silver bullet or something like that. It really is. It's amazing. I personally haven't had enough patients come back to see the efficacy of it yet, but I've read studies. I mean, I've seen lots of things. So I'm a believer, and I'm grateful that we can use it for our patients, especially the pedos.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah, do you use it?
We do. We use it quite a bit. Kind of like Andrew said, we've probably started using it within the last 6 months, so we haven't had a lot of results just yet. But I think if it proves to be, effective in the way that we're using it, that would be awesome. Because, like he said, we're trying to avoid those IV sedations, general sedation cases. So, and just maybe even just buying some time until that child can get a little bit older, where they can tolerate the treatment more definitive treatment. So I think it's awesome.
And it's easy, right, Sarah? I mean, like, honestly, it doesn't take very much. You can do one droplet, covers about 5 teeth is kind of what we're told. You get some like sponge floss or whatever, you can pull it through. I mean, it's really not that hard to apply. You do need suction, you do need air, but like and then you put a little bit of varnish on over the top to kind of seal everything in. Like, it's really easy. It takes 3 minutes per tooth? I mean, because you have to leave it on for about a minute or so, and rinsing, drying, all that kind of stuff. But it's great. It's great.
But there is a company that has a composite that goes over it that's made specifically for SDF. Do you know what that is? Because I was at an AAPD meeting once, and Elevate was there. They're the ones that have the SDF, and then there was a company that has a composite specifically for it, and I don't even think it needs to be light cured, if I remember correctly.
So I mean, there are glass ionomers that you can put that are not light cured, that are self cured, that you can put on top. So they kind of the thing that they say is if you are using the light to cure it, then it stains deeper and darker, and you can kind of see it through the composites or through the glass ionomers, and so that's why they don't really want that light reaction. And so if you put like it's either Fuji 9 or Fuji Equi. I can't remember which one, but it's like a self-cure, and they might both be, I don't know. But then you put it on, and then you don't have to do anything. We use Fuji 2 a lot in our office, so we don't really, we like cure it anyways, understanding that it's not going to be a permanent restoration anyway. So, And there's also, you can do a layering technique. I mean, it's not, you can always put a little bit of Fuji 2 on first. Don't fill up the prep all the way. Light cure it, and then you can put another layer on, and it doesn't seem to have so much bleed through of darkness and stain. So.
Okay, Katrina, I'll let you. Did you say you wanted to go through and look at the questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let's answer a couple of those. Oh, I can't see them.
Oh, okay.
Veronica, there is a code for that. I don't know what the code is, but there is a code for coding out SDF.
And then
I
Ed.
think that would be a good person to ask for that.
Ed wants to know, what episode should we look for in your 2018 for your podcast?
The one you're going to be on, buddy. I don't know. We have several, so Voices of Dentistry is a dental podcasters conference coming up. It's not just for podcasters, but everyone can do it. And that's coming up this month. We're going to be at Chicago Midwinter. We'll be at RDH Under One Roof. We're going to Europe, and we're going to do the Euro Perio conference. So there's a lot. I think the ones I'm looking forward to most are the international interviews, but those won't happen until Euro Perio's in June. And so, it's going to be probably 8 months before we can get those ones over there. So, yeah, but Ed, I know you were on one already, but buddy, you got to come back on and do like one just for you.
You don't have to show your face.
Yeah, you do.
Okay, and then it looks like, excuse me, Trudy wants to know if you do extractions on your mission trips.
No.
Did you get that, Trudy?
I don't know the legality of things, so I'm going to continue to maintain my no on that one.
And then Veronica wants to know if you're licensed to do simple extractions. I think maybe you had already addressed that.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not.
And then looking. Andrew, how do you find your local dental people to continue the mission there? From Trudy. How do you find local dental people?
Oh, okay, that's what you're saying. So One World Health is really the group that does. I think Michelle would probably be a better person to ask about what they're doing. But it's not just dental, it's also medical. And so I think from what I understood that they were having a training program for like when they're in Africa, because they have a location in Africa and they have a location in Nicaragua. And they will train for certain things, like the medical doctors and stuff will train them, because it doesn't have to be the same sort of education level that we have to be able to do the actual procedures. And so I think that's kind of where they're going with that. As far as the Somos Amigos one, it's going to be the same thing. It'll be a doctor that's already there. It's not necessarily training them. It'll be someone that can take emergencies and still see them, but they probably already have their own practice as well. And then it'll be like a part-time thing. So when we're not there, so Somos Amigos, I think they go 4 times a year now. When we're not there, they will utilize the clinic. They will get paid from the donations through Somos Amigos to kind of keep it up and running. But I haven't been with him in about a year plus, and so I haven't heard any updates on that one. But that's what the goal was going forward with that one. Oh, there's Angela.
Yeah, Angela just put in a code for arresting carries. So thank you for that, Angela. All right,
Thanks, Angela. You're the best.
I think I've gotten all the questions, unless there's somebody that wants to pop in real quick and ask Andrew a question.
So Andrew, you're already doing so many things. What are your goals for 2018?
A nap. I think that's the goal for 2018, is sleep. No, I don't know. I think I want to slow down. I don't want to do as much. I was on my state committee for a couple of years. I was the chair of that. I helped a lot with examinations. I went to a lot of meetings that felt like not just conferences, but like other, like there's one called AADB, which is the American Association of Dental Boards, which is a fantastic organization. They do a lot of really cool things. But I no longer will be going to those types of things that'll allow me to slow down. So I also made a promise to my wife 3 years ago that I wasn't going to work as much, and it just kept ramping up. So I think I'm going to try in 2018. My goal is to keep that promise finally and not work so much overtime and just like enjoy life, keep the podcast going. We have a lot of really cool people that have been helping us out. I don't know. I guess I don't really have any goals. I should have actually listed some goals. I don't know. I don't have any goals. I just do work and just keep on keeping on. Just do this.
But Andrew, you are looking for sponsors, right?
I mean, yeah. We're not gonna tell people no if they want to give us money. I mean, that'd be foolish. But honestly, we have some people lined up already, so I think that we're going to be okay for a little bit. But I mean, anytime people want to come on the show, we're always looking for interviews too. Usually have to be at a conference. We do a lot of on-location recordings, but yeah, everyone just be cool. Ed, shush. No one needs to hear anything from you about energy drinks. But this is not an energy drink. It's just water, flavored water.
Too bad we don't have Doug Perry on. I'm sure he'd have a couple questions for you.
Doug's opinion on life is irrelevant for anyone that wants to know.
Which reminds me, I'm supposed to ask you something.
No, I'm not.
Let's talk about your tattoo.
Okay, I don't really have a tattoo. So Doug Perry was one of our very first interviews back in, I think, 2015. And we're talking about, we were interviewing him, asking him about like what is appropriate, like, we're talking about tattoos actually, like what people has tattoos, is that kind of taboo or whatever. And I had made a quick little joke about the little teardrop tattoos when you kill somebody when you're in prison, blah blah. And so I've covered mine up since then, but I don't know. He said it wasn't a good idea to interview with that on there, so I'm like, okay, I guess I won't do it anymore.
So you had to cover that up, and then you went and got a tramp stamp of a butterfly.
I did, yeah. A little butterfly. It's purple and pink. Because
it makes you feel
dust coming off of it. So,
totally appropriate.
It does make me feel beautiful. Like, yeah. I don't know. Like, don't judge. That's all I can say.
There went our professionalism, right there.
Exactly. I can't wait to get up on stage and show everybody my tramp stamp someday. I'm scared of needles, though. I would never get a tattoo because I'm scared to death of needles. Mm-hmm. Just FYI.
Yeah, there's lots of people who are afraid of needles, but they'll go and have 70 of them jabbed into them at the exact same time and get like a sleeve.
That's just stupid. That's just dumb and stupid. Needles are dumb. The end on that one.
Says the guy who's like, calm down, this isn't going to hurt at all.
I've done the math. Like, I've given over 1 million injections in my career. And I'm like, first of all, that's freaking weird to know that I've given that many. But yeah, I don't, I have pictures of me giving myself shots because I don't trust anyone else. Like, it's legit. Like, I just, whoa. But if I do, it's fine. I'm good.
How long did it take for you to feel, because I worked at the general office for 6 years and then I transferred to pediatrics. And when I first started, part of what we can do in Kansas is we give 99% of the local anesthetic to our patients. It took me a long time before I was comfortable with doing local anesthetic on kids. Yeah. And now I actually prefer it over adults. What was your experience with that?
Well, nothing. Okay, in my first 6 months, maybe, I gave a hematoma. So I did a PSA on a freaking 3-year-old, which you don't freaking do, but no one ever taught me pedo injections. And so I'm like, oh, well, I'm just doing number A. I'm going to give him a PSA. You don't do that. So when he swelled out to here, I'm like, oh, let me learn a little bit more. And then I also gave someone transient facial nerve paralysis once. And that's a pretty good eye opener because I was trying to do, I think we're doing number 27 or 28 or something like that. And I gave him incisive or mental block or whatever you want to call it. And, it just, I wasn't getting her numb. I couldn't figure it out. So I was talking to my doctors, like, we'll try what do you say? The Akinosi technique. And that's the closed mouth one, right? So I'm like, I'd never done it. He's like, oh, it's easy, just do this. And then I was too far lateral, right in the parotid gland, whatever. And she was fine. But I think like having those two royal mistakes and understanding that the patients aren't going to die because of it, and if you manage it properly, because I remember, I think it was chapter 18 in our Malamet book, or 17 for like the local complications. And I remember that those chapters specifically, like make sure they take out the contact lenses if they can't blink, make sure they do this, make sure they do that. And she was going to go home and go to bed anyway, so it was really good. And I called her in the morning, and she was just fine. But like relying back on that training, doing those things, and seeing that those two pretty serious problems didn't kill anybody, then I'm like, okay, I can do anything now. Like I have zero fear about doing that. And you know, with screaming kids, it's gonna hurt, or it's not gonna hurt. Like you can't really, like you can trick them all you want, but I don't know.
I see Doug has joined. He liked us. He was just a couple minutes too late.
Oh, we talk so much trash about you, Doug. Sorry.
Okay, so somebody was wanting to know if you. Okay, Trudy wants to know: will you be attending the ADHA convention this year?
Unfortunately, no. That's it. Europe area was at the same time, and so if you heard earlier, I really suck at perio. And so I really feel I need to do that. Plus, you know, we have some pretty good friends. Trisha O'Hare, some of you guys might know her. She's pretty popular. And Tim Ives are, they're going to, you know, we're going to go to London first and hang out with them. They're going to help us get some interviews for some international people. So like, it's too good of an opportunity for us to kind of pass up. Like we just really can't. We wish we could be there because we're going to miss a lot of really fun things. And I was looking through my email earlier, and there's some updates for this year's conference that I haven't looked at yet, but it sounds like it's going to be, you know, kind of growing and kind of expanding upon the coolness of last year. So sorry, guys. I really wish we could be there, but it's not going to happen this year. RDH under one roof, though. Like, that's a freaking sweet one, too. Like, I think you should be there.
And Veronica
we want to be there, don't we, Sarah?
Yes. We want to be a lot of places.
It's a good one. Like Penwell really like does a good job with us last year of getting us, you know, access to people and really like supporting like hygienists and podcasts. Like they do a fantastic job. So,
and I just wanted to say thank you to you because I mean, Katrina and I approached you like, hey, you know, when this was new, can you guide us a little bit more? Like, can you help us out a little bit? And you never hesitated. You were so helpful. I just really appreciate that because like we were talking about earlier, we all need to support each other and just not be so worried about, you know, competing against each other. And so I just wanted to let you know that really meant a lot to me. And I know it probably did Katrina too, that you were willing to help us with our new venture.
Oh, of course, buddy. I mean, this is the thing. There's room for everybody doing this thing. And what you guys are doing is awesome. Like it is so much different than a lot of other formats out there. And I think this is going to be huge. I think this is going to, if you guys continue to like just keep plugging along, I mean, this type of content is so sought after for hygienists. Like they need, I mean, obviously not this interview, but like your other interviews with like professional people, like really good stuff. Like they're going to need that kind of information. And the more sources that are out there, the better. And you guys are just two wonderful people. So couldn't be happier for you guys.
Thanks, Andrew. And that's another reason we do these live interviews, because there's awesome, successful people out there like you that I'm sure a lot of people feel that they can't approach you. And part of doing these interviews is for everybody to realize that you're just normal people and reach out to these people because like Andrew, I mean, he's never said, you know what, no, I don't have time. I mean, and he's so busy. He's got a crazy schedule. He's always made time for us, and he's awesome. So reach out to any of these people. If you need a mentor, I don't know about Andrew, but
yeah, you don't want it. I was thinking last night, like I thought it'd be really fun to like charge people to call me, and I'll just like talk about myself the whole entire time. Like, here's give me $50. I'll talk about myself. You get 2 calls or 5 calls, or whatever. I don't know. Don't do that though. It'd be a waste of your time. And I just get rich doing it. It'd be fine.
So one more question. Veronica wants to know about, can you do some sort of brush up anesthesia training for RDH's podcast style, and then tips and tricks for anesthesia?
Oh, you know, let me be honest about this. I don't. I mean, how am I going to answer this? I don't think, especially our podcast, our audio podcast, isn't going to be really helpful. I don't think for anesthesia training. But there are actually, okay, Malia, what does she have? I'm sorry, Malia. This is live, and Malia Harris. She does the. Holy crap! I'm so sorry. If anyone can remember what her website is, they have awesome videos. Hold on. Yes, I'm sorry. I know this is not professional, but well, whatever.
Try to look it up too. But I do know that there are quite a few YouTube videos. Like you go to YouTube and you search for that sort of thing, you'll find.
Yeah, there are, and I've done a few of those as well. But honestly, I've never seen better videos than these ones. And the mom hygienist was just talking about this too. And I just, gosh dang it. Anyways, I'm really sorry. If someone knows it, then they can put it in the notes later. But like they have like this training stuff that's really awesome. It's been a while since I looked at their site, but it's pretty cool. They're educators too. So like they kind of see it from like the student perspective, and they see it from us as like seasoned clinicians. Like they're able to kind of relate it to everyone. So yeah, but yeah, I don't think podcasting, like if we had like another like a live event or whatever, we did a bunch of recordings, that would probably be helpful though. But that's gonna have to be in a different country probably. So everyone just come down to Guatemala with me, and then we'll take a bunch of videos and yeah.
Okay, that reminds me of one more thing, because I know we've had you on here for over an hour, but let me ask you something. You said that you were going to be doing some scholarships for people.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about that and doing that.
So the game plan for this is, once of course the money starts rolling in with the sweet podcast sponsorship money starts rolling in, all $12 of it or whatever.
All from the Mueller report, right?
That's right. All because of you. You guys launched it for us. So here's the thing, like Michelle and I are really passionate about mission trips, like just helping other people. We just love it so much. Our goal is by the end of 2018, we want to set about $5,000 aside towards hopefully a few mission trips, because they cost so much. Now, Somos Amigos doesn't cost much at all. I mean, it is like $300 plus your plane ticket. Like it really is that inexpensive. But the One World Health one that Michelle goes on is I think $2,700 or something like that, which is about average for most mission trips. So our goal is to pay a portion of that, like sponsor someone, and then they can pay a little bit too. So it's really important to us that they have a little bit of skin in the game as well. We don't want a free ride for anybody because it's got to be a little bit of a sacrifice. Otherwise, you're not going to appreciate the trip. But there are people out there that really just cannot afford it. I mean, some people can't even afford their $300 ADHA dues. So like, I understand. So we want to kind of put some money aside. I think we're going to try and put 2 people on the One World Health, and I think we're going to try and sponsor something for Somos Amigos. But we haven't contacted them yet. But I'm sure they'll take our money. Why wouldn't they? It still spends, I think.
And do you have a way for people to reach out to you about sponsorship, or you haven't thought about that yet?
Yeah, we're a little ahead of where we're at. I think the mission trips that we're thinking of was like October and December. So it's down the road quite a ways. But I mean, you can always access us on Facebook, Facebook message us. Like we're pretty, I don't know, approachable, reachable.
Not Michelle though, because she doesn't check her messages. So
not Michelle, like not personally to Michelle, but like through our Tale of Two Hygienists. And I think we have an email address. I think it's a Tale of Two Hygienists @gmail.com. Michelle always is the person that says that on the end of every episode, and I always mess it up. So like, I don't know. You say the words that mean things, and then I'll just be back here and be nobody. So.
All right.
Oh yeah, Trudy. Hold on. Trudy has a mission trip that she does. It's $1,800 to go on there. So also reach out to Trudy because we love her also very much.
So when we talk about those numbers, okay, so is it just like any convention? Like you pay the $1,800, and then do you have like your expenses for like obviously to get there, or what does that include? What does that typical fee include? Is it your lodging?
I think it depends on like what trip you go on. So for the Somos Amigos one, that $300. Okay, so it's a different experience. It's a cultural experience. This is in the Dominican Republic, and I can get a round trip ticket for about $500 from Portland, Oregon. And then you also, so that $300 pays for the meals that you'll be consuming. They have snacks, they have fresh water that they have to buy, whatever residual of that. And then also there's 2 nights in a hotel, and then we go and we stay at people's homes. And so it'll be kind of like, there'll be 4 or 5 of us staying in someone's house, and then we, walk down to the clinic and walk back, walk over to lunch, and the most pristine, beautiful views you've ever seen in your whole entire life. We're on top of we're walking on the ridges of the mountains. Have you ever seen Sound of Music, right? They have that beautiful, you're on the mountains. It's like that, no snow, but you're walking on the ridges. It's awesome. So the $300 pays for all that. For One World Health, I believe that $2,700 is inclusive of everything as well, including your lodging and all of that. If you're going to be doing a CE affiliated trip, a lot of times you pay your CE cost and then you just pay for everything else out of your own pocket. So if you want to stay at the same hotel as everyone, just do the same hotel as everyone. If you don't, you don't have to. It's preferred that you do, but whatever. So usually the CE one is closer to about probably $2,500 to $3,000, but you get 48 hours of CE for the one I do. So they're all kind of a little bit different. You kind of have to ask where the money goes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we can't wait to hear more about it.
What's up, Sarah? See you Zoom. See you Zoom's awesome.
All right, guys. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up. We've kept Andrew here for over an hour, and thanks for everybody tuning in. It's been a great interview. So, Sarah?
Very fun, yes. And thank you once again. I know you're busy, but you've spent over an hour with us, so we appreciate that. And you gave us some really good things and good content to review. And we'll try to get some, if you could provide us with maybe that link to the trip, the mission trip, that maybe we can put that up online for everybody to look at and stuff. So anyway.
Well, thank you so much for letting me be on. You guys are awesome, and I wish you guys all the best success in the whole entire world.
Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe we'll see you at one of the conventions.
You better.
Sure. All right. Well, thanks, guys.
All right, I'm going to close it down now, so we'll see everybody. Bye.
Bye.